Hobie-doo, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast. And today we're going to revisit, after a long time, CANON zoom lens FD 28 to 50mm constant 3.5 SSC. It's a pretty long lens compared to others. And when you turn the zoom barrel, see what happens? This barrel, instead of integrating it into some enclosed barrel, they went this method instead. Okay, that's neither here nor there. It focuses down to less than 1 meter. Well, that's a little cheesy if you want my opinion. But it does have this magnifying thing that only works at macro. You go to 28, flip the switch, then you can go to macro. And that works pretty good, believe it or not. And then you gotta flip the switch to go back. Stuff's on the f22. Oh, and half f-stops. That's nice. I'm going to take this off the camera. This is the CANON M50 Mark II. This is a photodiox diopter, and I have no gripes against them because all the FD adapters have this goofy ring business. This means it's stop down, right? This is, you could stop it down. And if you install it, you got to put it on install. Then you got to go like this, right? And then you got to go like this, and then you got to go like this. Now, I noticed that some CANON lenses, you really gotta really well away and make sure that this red dot is furthest you can get from that direction. Because when you go to the stop down mode, oh, cool. F22, you see it's opening up. If you only have that ring all the way over, the lens won't stop down correctly. Suppose you just put it over and you don't go all the way over. This thing is okay, that works. But if this ring isn't all the way as far in this direction as you could get it, then it won't stop down much past F8, and then you're going to have a bad day. So let's take this off again. I think it's this pin here. See that pin right there? You can see that pin sort of in there. A little shiny metal pin right in there. That thing has to be pushed in and engaged in order for the diaphragm to engage properly. I don't know if it's fault of the adapter. If I put it on any Canon camera, like an AE1 program, I don't have that problem. Now, some Canon lenses, you put them on here, they work good, and some don't. Now, I bought this lens in excellent condition, and it was in excellent condition, without a doubt. So, it's easier to do when it's on the camera, so I'll put it back on the camera. Right? Alright. So, and now it'll work. But that's something you always got to verify. You always got to be aware of that. It has that much play in the focusing ring. Like that much. So if you're doing fine focusing and you go slightly past the focus and you want to go back, there's a little bit of backlash. Hear that clicking noise? That's the backlash. So you got to keep that in mind. Maybe this lens was very highly used, even though it was in excellent shape. It could have been used a lot. You know, maybe some pro person had it and they just use it a lot. Now, it functions fine, except for those two caveats. You know, it has some play here, but that's negligible. It's got, when you're doing a live view manual focusing, it might be a little bit of a hassle. And then you just got to make sure that this ring is all the way over, and then it works fine. That I have no troubles with it. So, I went to a car show in BOGOTA, or some people say BOGOTA, which is not in Columbia, but in New Jersey. And they had a pretty decent car show there. It was free. And I got there early because I like to see the cars pull in. And then if it gets hot, like in July, we're having some sort of heat wave, heat dome, I bail by 10 o'clock because my brains will bake even wearing a hat. So I shot it mostly at f8 and just a couple of f11s. I went through the whole gamut between 50 and 35, 28 and some 35s. I didn't do any macro there on this camera, and I was very satisfied with the results, and we're going to see that in this following slideshow. Of course, I was in manual mode, and then the shutter, I stay at f8, so I don't have to remember anything later. And I just would dial in the correct shutter speed. And you could tell when the focus is correct, and they have like a, let's see, they have this thing, which is, so I got the lens cap on, let's take the lens cap off, okay. Oh, it doesn't do anything. But you see how it gets dark, right? So basically when it looks good on the screen, then it's good, you're good to go. If I put it on AV, nothing happens, okay? TV. I wish that would move. On some cameras that moves and it gives you indication. Oh, it's this. Well, that's your bias, your exposure bias. I don't want to change that. Oh, maybe that's what that is, exposure bias. What I'll have to do is I'll have to find that screen. This is fully customizable. And I thought that was the exposure indicator, but no, that's your exposure bias. I'll have to look into that. Some of these cameras are super complicated. You really crack open the manual to check them out. Now, I spent $100 for this lens. It's a little hefty, even though it's all mostly made out of plastic. It is bigger than, say, like the Nikon 28-50. It's definitely bigger. And it's about the same as the Pentax 24-50. But that's f4. The Nikon is also f3.5. I found this lens to be totally usable, and it takes excellent pictures when you nail the focus. And of course, I would recommend setting it at f11 or f16 in bright sunlight to get the most depth of field. That's just the way it rolls. Unless you shoot everything at 28, but then when you even 35. But definitely 50, you're going to maybe even want f22 to get a wide range of focus. Without too much more further explanations, pictures speak louder than words. Why don't we just go look at the slideshow and you tell me. When I go to car shows, I like to get there early. Say it opens like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. I try to get there at 8:30 or 8 o'clock. That's a half hour early. Now, I've never been to a car show where I went early where it wasn't accessible. Folks who are displaying their cars, they'll get there like an hour early to get the best spots or something, or and that's just the way it is. So I get there early. There are already people there. I like to watch the rest of the cars roll in, you know, one at a time, or a couple come in, and then you watch the crowd roll in also, and that's what I sort of like that. And this lens did a really good job. Is it outstanding? No. Is it crap? No, it's far from crap. It's a typical Canon mass-produced lens from the 70s that was better than most. I'll say that for sure. Did it stand the test of time? Well, I think they use a lot of plastic parts that just don't hold up as old school metal. Now, the optics are good. It's just that, you know, my copy had some backlash in the focusing mechanism. And on some adapters, you really got to watch when you mount the lens and twist the silver collar to make sure it's fully engaged so that the aperture runs through its full range. Are they all like that? I haven't the faintest idea. And then when you have so many cameras, sometimes you get confused. Like I got the Canon USM M50 Mark II, and it does have a focus, an exposure indicator. So as you turn the dial, you can tell whether you're over or underexposed. It serves two purposes. It's also the exposure bias, but it's also your exposure indicator. So what you do is you got to press the shutter button halfway, and it switches from exposure bias to exposure indicator. Then when you turn the dial, you can see it either goes plus or minus, and that indicates your right exposure. depending on what mode you're in. Say I'm in manual mode, and so there's no aperture for it to worry about. I see the shutter speed change, and I also see the dial either move towards center or away from center. So it's when you have a bunch of cameras, you just gotta like stick with one for a while to get really used to it. So it was like sort of slightly overcast, varying slightly overcast, and actually that gives you the best sort of lighting to take pictures of cars without harsh shadows. And it was lucky because we were having sort of like a heat wave, heat dome, and if the sun had come out that early, we'd all be cooking our brains. I wear a hat now, like because I'm an old boomer, I have to wear a hat. And when it's humid and hot like that, man, it's like someone's beating me with a baseball bat. So, but generally when it gets too crowded anyway, that's when I bail because then it's hard to take pictures when there's thousands of people standing in front of every car. The Sahara Club, this is their 5th or 6th annual show in Bogota, and they're on River Road by Outwater, if people would know what that is. But at any rate, the Sahara Club has something to do with AA, that's Alcoholics Anonymous, and they're called the Sahara Club because, well, the Sahara is dry. Get it? It's dry. There's a couple of bikes there, quite a number of bikes. They're cool looking bikes. I like to rim on this one. Here's a close-up of that. So I like to dissect details on everything. Like they had this pinstriping, fancy pinstriping on this fender, and in the weird sky clouds I was talking about, the variable overcast, you can see it reflected in this deep mirror-proof finish. And of course, a lot of shows I like to check out their trophies, see what their trophies are like. And they usually hand out the trophies a little later than I want to stay, so I usually bail before then. Here says this car was painted school bus yellow because the people who restored it were working in some tech school for like a school system, and the only color they had available was school bus yellow. But it works. It worked. I see a lot of these cars at other shows, but then they're parked in different spots, and maybe you notice something about a car you didn't notice it last time. And of course, you always see other cars you haven't seen before, so it's always worth going to these shows. And most of them are free, or maybe at the most spectators they charge $5 or something. And it's just the guys who display their cars. They have to pay like an entry fee to win their awards or whatever. So this lens seemed prone to some flare a little bit. The contrast seemed a little weak to me. And if you noticed the barrel, the lens moved in and out of the barrel as you zoomed it. And when the lens was all the way in, it was at 50 millimeters, and it acted more as a lens shade for 50 millimeters, which I guess is pretty good. And when you were at 28 millimeters, the lens was at the outer end of the barrel, and then the lens shade effect isn't that pronounced. And then you really can't stick a lens shade on it because there wasn't any place to put like a filter ring or anything. And then the way they had the end of the lens barrel was scalloped, like you thought it was like a lens shade, but it rotated with the focusing, so I guess it was just a cosmetic design they made. Unless maybe they originally wanted to have not move or something, but Canon, they had a lot of weird different designs back in the day. Some of them worked really well, some of them were completely adequate, and I'm sure they had one or two dogs, but I don't have any of their dogs. Any camera company can make dogs. Canon has some dogs, and Nikon has some dogs, and they all have dogs, but they also have a lot of good lenses, and those are the ones you want to get. And this is a really decent lens. I could recommend it to people. Of course, you would have to check it out thoroughly to make sure it doesn't have any backlash on the focusing ring. You'd have to try out your adapter first to make sure when you twist the silver ring, the aperture opens and closes through the full range. I really like this monster van. That was pretty cool. Well, he has 2, 4, 6, 8 air shocks in each tire or something, or maybe that lowers and raises it. There's the school bus yellow coupe on the left-hand side. Here's another shot of this trophies. They had a full cookout there. I bought a Taylor ham, egg and cheese. Here's the Sahara's Club. Here's this is their meeting place, I guess, and it was in their parking lot, which is pretty cool. Here's some ambiance background and what it was like and back in the DJ. And then I like to juxtapose, cars, different colors, different angles, geometric shapes, lighting. I know all the vets guys, they hang out in a pack or something, so they're all parked together. This guy's, his rims were the exact same color as the car. They did that back in the day, I forgot about that, but they did it back in the day. So if you had a red car, your rims were red. And this way, your moon hubcap, you could see it in actuality. So my advice is to shop around, see what you could get, best price, best condition for this lens. Don't be afraid to buy one. They're really good. And it's just different from doing everything automatic focus and everything automatic. And there's a companion video to this where I use the Pentax 2024 to 50, and I'll be posting that soon after this.